Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So the companions of the hall have returned. You can purchase the entire bundle for 4,000 Zen, getting all 5 of them. Unfortunately, there's no other way other than that bundle. They're not selling them separately this time. Be aware that this is a single purchase and tradable with other players. You can go purchase it, open in the pack and sell every single one of these if you so wish. And yes, it does include one of the best multi-target companions there is right now, Regis, who even has a support effect of increasing your allies' recharge speed. Ultimately, I want to look at all of them, compare them, should you consider picking up this bundle, and yes, give some insights as to Regis versus Xuna. With Module 29, Xuna is getting some pretty big damage buffs. She's going to be super good in single target damage right here, which also means her multi-target damage has definitely gone up. Who made me dance? But again, they're selling this pack for a whopping 4,000 Zen. But it does mean, since you can sell these, the prices on the auction house will be dropping as well. Some people will buy this pack, pick what they want, and sell the rest. So first of all, we have Drizzt. He has the ability to massively support your team. He can give them 3% multiplicative damage boost, which means no matter what enemy you're facing, he's always going to contribute 3%. Imagine you have a boss with 1 billion hit points. He will go ahead and contribute always 3%. That's going to be 30 million effective damage, on top of what he can do himself. He is literally the best right now for supporting your team with damage, and that is because his buff is never diminished. Every other support companion will have their effects go down and decrease depending on what other buffs your team has. Unfortunately though, his damage output is pretty terrible. Rank 172 on single target, so not one I would use as summoned as a damage dealer if you're just looking for the companion to deal damage for you. He does have some multi-target abilities, but unfortunately his hits are pretty weak, and so compared to the others, he's just going to fall behind significantly. But again, super good to have a summoned as a support. I would recommend a tank or healer use him. But if you don't intend to play a support, he's still pretty good to pick up. He has an offense power that's going to be very good early on for damage dealers, and even on endgame builds, very good for healers, crit strike and crit severity. He is an account-wide companion, so he can be worth to just get, and even if you don't think you're going to play a tank or healer right now, you might in the future, and you might regret missing this opportunity. But we move on to then Wulfgar. He also has an ability to support the team, but it's only 3% combat advantage, so it's nothing I would worry about. You generally won't make much use of it. His abilities are generally also multi-target. He has the swing ability, which can hit a lot of enemies within 15 feet, and his damage output is actually pretty solid, as long as he can get the enemies close to him. So he needs them tightly grouped up, and yeah, then he can do very well. But if they are all spread out, well, his damage is going to fall behind compared to a lot of alternatives. So I wouldn't really get him for the damage he can deal. Honestly, I would generally just pass on this guy. But again, he does have a useful ability here, but it's only going to be good for damage dealers early on. Once you get to endgame, you're going to replace it with, say, extra damage. Batiri, Knight, Raptor, things like that. Moving on, we have Bruenor, and he has the ability to support the team with damage resistance. He is pretty good with that, reducing the incoming damage by 3%. The issue is right now there's not really any content where that is a must-have, and so in general you're just better off supporting the damage, getting through the content faster and getting your rewards, and you can do another run then. His single target damage, not very good, rank 86 there, and his defense power, it's pretty good for tanks, but that's about it. Generally I would just skip on him. He's definitely not a must-have. Then we go to Catti-bri, and she's a support companion again, giving 5% movement speed. Pretty neat, but it is just a utility quality of life improvement. It's generally not a must-have. Her abilities are single target damage, and she's actually very good at it. You can see she's like rank 16 here, pretty much tied with all of these guys. She performs very well, and also then just giving that utility benefit is very nice. So totally one you could use for just outputting damage in those boss fights. Her utility power here I wouldn't really worry about. You're generally not going to use it, particularly the control resistance is just a bit of a waste. There's rarely anything that's important for. We move on then to Regis, the final companion, and probably the one you want to buy this pack for. Him and Drizzt. Very good. He's one of the best with multi-target damage and increases your recharge speed by 3%. His ability to just slaughter enemies and hit them in a wide area with whirlwinds of blades is really, really good. However, I generally wouldn't make it such a big priority. I personally would not spend 4,000 Zen just to get him, but you do have to consider you are getting all the other ones too, so you will be able to sell them. I'm here to just show you his effectiveness, and ultimately you can see he's pretty much the best out of all of the ones I've tested in just pure multi-target content, killing a group of enemies as quickly as possible, and he achieved the fastest time. He is just downright the most reliable one for multi-target damage. Will help you a lot in like solo questing or AFK farming. In party content, his effectiveness will like relatively decrease compared to what just players can output, and in general if you're like racing other players to get to enemy groups and kill them and move on to the next, all multi-target companions are just going to fall behind. They're not going to keep up as fast as you're just going to kill the enemies in like a few hits, and they'll basically won't get any time to react, and then that way there's not a lot of point in a multi-target companion. But of course it can be good when you're in like tougher content, enemies have lots of hit points, and that can be completely relevant to where you're at in the game. You might not be at the stage where you can just one-shot enemies. Other than him being highly effective as summoned, his defensive power is not great. You can use it for a deflect building tank, but that's not really the way to go. Also keep in mind, they do all have the benefit that can give you extra stats when you use multiple of these bonuses, but it's not really practical to do so due to the way the different stats they all grant, and with damage dealers these days you can't really afford to say use Drizzt and Wulfgar for all stats, because you'll be missing out on Catti-bri, Neverwinter Knight, Minsk, and like the Raptor or some other damage buff companion. So it's not really practical, and same for healers and pretty much same for tanks as well. There is of course the option to use Bruenor and Regis for that effect. You basically gain more stats than you normally would from normal companions, but it's generally not worth it because of the stats they give you that you don't really need. Ultimately, that is my analysis of all 5 companions from the pack. I want to give you a warning though. This data here with Regis compared to the others does not include the change to the Shadowkai Witch and Xuna that is upcoming with Module 29. Both of them have been reworked a bit on how they work in multi-target. Xuna will be going up. She might even be better than Regis. So be aware of that, and I will make sure to test that as soon as I can. Just unfortunately the server for Module 29 is down right now, so I cannot do any further testing. Overall, the pack's got some great companions there, and I personally already have Drizzt companion because it's super good for supporting the team. I also have Wulfgar. For some reason I got it back in the day when having the stats was somewhat useful, when we weren't all say running damage companions. But other than that, I wouldn't really worry about picking up the rest. You can generally get other options potentially for cheaper. And so thanks for watching. A special thank you to all these channel members for your added support, and I'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.